Pickleball Librarian here with one of my favorite authors, Leonard Krishtalka. He's got this cool hard-boiled detective series by Harry
Przewalski.
It's a wonderful series, and this is the second book in the series?
This is the second book in the series, and the first one that is based at KU and in Lawrence and in Abilene, Kansas, as well as in southern France.
So we're going to talk about this book today.
The deans at KU, when they read this book, apparently at a dean's meeting, because I kill a dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences in this book, and they asked the question, when is Krishtalka going to kill another dean in his next book? So I know KU very well, and please, readers, please don't misunderstand. I love KU. It's a fabulous university, sure, there are some negative things I say about KU in the book, but then again, if I didn't, the book wouldn't be interesting.
It's a very interesting book. I loved it. It really captures Lawrence.
Well, I'm going to give a very quick synopsis. At 5 o'clock in the morning, the dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, who is on the Wheat State Tour, which doesn't exist anymore, in Abilene, Kansas, is found dead in her bed, choked to death. And the person arrested is her lover, who is chair of the anthropology department, who is also on the Wheat State Tour, and he was with her at 5 o'clock in the morning in her bed. About 10 minutes later, a woman named Ruby, who was a graduate of anthropology at KU, but now works at a diner right next to the Holiday Inn Motel on Old Highway 40, is hit over the head by an assailant in the diner when she opens it up for service in the morning. The murdered dean, she is an expert on prehistoric cave art, the art in Lascaux and the other fabulous caves in southern France. And her lover, the chair of anthropology, who is arrested for her murder, he hires Harry Przewalski to come to Lawrence from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to clear him. And the case takes him and Ruby, whom he meets, to France, to some of the art caves in France, one of which they find is fraudulent. And it also takes them to a horrific World War II atrocity. And the solution of the murder emerges from that calculus.
You're learning a lot from this book.
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing I really appreciate is the level of realism you use, because I felt I was in 2004 Lawrence. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm on Mass Street, and then I'm turning the corner and I'm eating at Pachamama's.
Yes.
I mean, you caught that. That is such a wonderful restaurant, and it's there in the book. Leonard is a real-life bicyclist.
I'm an avid cyclist, and I've done Bike Across Kansas 3 times, so I know whereof I speak in there. Just been published, called Native Blood. The chancellor of the university hires him because her son, who happens to be an adopted Native American, an Athabascan First Canadian student whom she adopted many years ago, is accused of murdering a genomic anthropologist in the basement of Spooner Hall. And she brings Harry back to clear her son. And Harry, of course, comes back and sees Ruby. Ruby, a few days, he never gets to meet her, at least not initially, because she is shot in the head while he's talking to her on the phone. The murdered individual is a genomic anthropologist who studies the DNA of indigenous peoples, including Native Americans and Native First Canadians. There's a protest on Jayhawk Boulevard protesting how this genomic anthropologist came by the samples that he is using, and protesting the kind of research he's doing, essentially robbing Native Americans of their own origin stories. Harry has to solve three mysteries here. One, who murdered the genomic anthropologist? Two, who shot Ruby in the head and why? And three, how did a 13,000-year-old archaeological spear point found in the middle of Kansas along a creek called 12 Mile Creek, which threatens to upset all the theories of the origin of Native Americans in North America? When did they come here? Where did they come here? The archaeological story is different than the genomic story. The genomic story is that they came from Northeast Asia. The archaeological story is a lot more complicated and not quite as clear. He has to solve those three mysteries. Somebody made off with, or somebody invented that spear point that's 13,000 years old, found during an excavation in 1895 along the 12 Mile Creek, found pressed against the shoulder blade of a fossil bison that is 13,000 years old that was being excavated along the banks of 12 Mile Creek. That bison is on display in the third floor of the Natural History Museum. But the spear point that was once on display is no longer there.
It's hard to put a finger on where Leonard Krishtalka's writing is because, I mean, it's deep, it gets you going in the mind. There's action, there's adventure. I mean, in some ways, like, you know, right now, it sounds like he's like Michael Crichton. But you know what I also throw in? One of my favorite authors, Waller, Bridges, Madison County. And the reason why I bring that in is because Przewalski gives his insights into the human psyche. I mean, it's just so deep. You know, you see the interaction of, when you see Harry and Ruby, you're almost thinking, wow, this is like Bridges. I mean, the connection between the two characters is magnetic.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the human psyche because the real reason to write novels is to expose the human condition, all the different aspects of the human condition: love and loss and betrayal and fraud and greed and joy and kindness and all the other traits of humans. Each one of the novels is two intrigues. One is the intrigue, a science intrigue. In Deathsmoke, who painted this magnificent the magnificent art on the walls of Lascaux and the other prehistoric caves in southern France? Here in Native Blood, the scientific mystery is the conflict between genomics, genetics, and archaeology in explaining when did Native Americans first arrive on this continent. When did they get here? Was it 13,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago? And where did they come from and how did they get here? Did they get here by walking along the Bering Straits, the ice sheets? Did they come over land? Did they come with boats? Another feature in Native Blood is the horrific acts committed against Native Americans and Native Canadians at the residential schools that were run by the churches and then by the government. Unspeakable, horrific acts against them.
This is a great book talk, which is brought to you by Gearbox. And Chris actually is a huge Gearbox
fan. I'm a
fan.
Gearbox fan. I love the Gearbox paddles. This is my third Gearbox paddle. And now this is my favorite, the Pro Power. It has fabulous power, and yet you can also control your shots. I love the extended paddle, so I can reach more shots that I didn't reach before.
I really feel the ball absorbing into us. On my hard serves, I mean, they stay in. The topspin is crazy on this.
I also like Gearbox paddles because of the quality of their construction.
The Gearbox Pro Power is Pickleball Librarian approved.
And it's also Leonard Krishtalka approved.